This video is intended to familiarize the operator with the various aspects of the cab for the Type AS32 R-11 fuel servicing tank truck. The information offered includes a general description of the cab, the use and function of the cab's exterior and interior controls and indicators, and basic instructions for mobile operation of the truck during various driving conditions. This video supports the diagrams, tables, and information found in Work Package 5 of the technical manual that accompanies this vehicle. A fully loaded R-11 with all specified equipment and crew is capable of maintaining a speed of 55 miles per hour on a dry, level paved roadway or maintaining a speed of 40 miles per hour on an unimproved road. It can also maintain a speed of 15 miles per hour on Belgium block pavement. The cab assembly is a standard enclosed compartment conventional cab. Seating is provided to accommodate 2 crew members. The cab instrument panel and console provide the controls necessary to monitor and control the performance of the R-11. Here is an overview of the R-11's exterior cab controls and indicators and their function. Located on the center of the front of the R-11 are 2 tow hooks. These are the attachment points for tow chains when the vehicle needs to be towed. Near the right front tow hook is the front auxiliary air connector. This is a quick disconnect air coupling used to supply the truck air system with pressure from an outside source when it is not desirable to start the truck engine, or the truck engine air compressor is inoperative. Also, this connection should be released to release the brakes for safe towing operations. On the street side, just below the driver's footstep, are the air tank drain valve lanyards. Pulling each of these lanyards opens the drain valves on the air tanks to release any water buildup from condensation. There are 2 engine cover latches on the R-11, street side and curbside. Each are over-center type latch and locks used to secure the engine cover in the closed position. Just under the street side cab door to the upper left is the winterization system electrical socket. This is the electrical connection point to supply 120 VAC power to the winterization system. On both the street side and curb side of the cab doors are the key-operated door locks and the door latch handles. Under the street side cab door to the upper right is the jump starter receptacle. This is the connection for an external 12 VDC power source to provide additional engine cranking power. Now let's review the description and function of the cab's interior controls and indicators. Diagrams and information can be found in Work Package 5 of the technical manual. Before we take a detailed look at each of the dashboard and overhead console controls and indicators, here is a reminder for the operator. You'll notice that the various gauges of the electronic gauge cluster will go through one full sweep on each power-up before returning to indicating a gauge parameter. This is to indicate that all gauges are operating properly. Gauges that are erratic or do not sweep properly should be serviced. Most gauges have in-gauge warning lights which turn on if the gauge pointer moves to an out of range position. An audible alarm will also sound if the pointers move out of normal range and the warning indicator lights come on. The gauge lights will be on while the gauges are cycled through one complete sweep. If any indicator light fails to go out once the engine is started, stop the engine and determine the cause. Starting on the left side of the panel, this is the transmission oil temperature gauge with over-limit indicator. It indicates the temperature of the transmission oil in Fahrenheit degrees. Normal operating range is 150 to 250 degrees. A red LED symbol will illuminate if the oil temperature exceeds the allowable limit. Here is the engine oil pressure gauge with under limit indicator. This gauge indicates the engine lubricating oil in pounds per square inch, or PSI. With the engine operating at normal temperature, the reading should be from 40 to 60 PSI. A red LED indicator will illuminate if the pressure drops too low. The engine coolant temperature gauge with over-limit indicator shows the Fahrenheit degrees of the coolant. Normal operating temperature should read from 170 to 220 degrees. A red LED will illuminate if the temperature exceeds 230 degrees. To the right of this gauge cluster is the tachometer, or engine speed gauge. Just to the right of the tachometer is the speedometer. Across the top of the tachometer and speedometer gauges is the warning indicator panel. Notice that when the ignition key is turned on, only the warning indicators for the features specific to this vehicle will illuminate. These warning indicators stay on until the startup sequence is completed. These various warning lights serve to alert the operator when vehicle systems are not functioning properly, fluid levels are low, or when the cruise control system is in operation. Red warning indicators mean there is a system malfunction that is dangerous to the operator. The vehicle should be stopped immediately and the problem resolved. Yellow warning indicators mean that there is a problem that needs attention soon. The vehicle can continue to be operated with caution. However, the problem should be checked and remedied as soon as possible. Blue indicator signifies the high beam headlights are on. To the right of the speedometer is a cluster of 4 gauges. This one is the fuel level gauge with low fuel indicator. This indicates the level of fuel remaining in the truck chassis fuel tank. A yellow indicator will illuminate when the fuel is down to 1/8 of a tank. Here is the voltmeter with an over-under voltage indicator. This gauge indicates the VDC reading of the vehicle's electrical system. A normal reading is anywhere from 12.5 volts to 14 volts. An LED indicator will illuminate if the system voltage is outside the normal operating range. This indicates that there is a problem with the charging or electrical systems. There are 2 air pressure gauges for the brake systems. This is Air 1 pressure gauge with under limit indicator. It indicates the air pressure within the primary brake system. This is Air 2 pressure gauge with under limit indicator. It indicates the air pressure within the secondary brake system. Normal reading for both the Air 1 and 2 pressure gauges should read between 90 and 125 psi. On both gauges, a red indicator will illuminate and an alarm will sound when the pressure drops below 60 psi. The left and right turn signal indicator flashing lights are located here and here. To the bottom right of the gauge cluster is the reset push button. It is used to select modes for the major vehicle functions in the digital LCD display. To press and release this push button to change the mode. Press and hold to clear the display for the modes that are able to be reset. The digital LCD display is a multi-function display containing 3 lines. 1 line that provides transmission range selection, and 2 lines that provide both diagnostic trouble codes and operational modes. The modes for the major vehicle functions are selected with the Select Reset switch that was just described. For an explanation of the diagnostic codes, refer to the Engine Diagnostics Manual. Located to the right of the steering column on the dash are control switches to operate the cab's heater and air conditioner. The switches include fan control, temperature control, and mode control. A warning indicator light with the words Check AC will illuminate here if there is a problem with the air conditioning system. To the lower right side of this dash panel is the engine air filter restriction gauge. This gauge measures the maximum restriction of the filter element when the engine is running at full load and locks at that point. This allows the operator to read the maximum restriction with the engine shut down. To press and release the reset button to reset the filter restriction gauge to minimum setting after the air filter assembly has been serviced. Here is the parking brake control. To apply the parking brakes, pull the knob out. To release the parking brakes, push the knob in. Reminder, the knob will not stay pushed in if the brake system air pressure is insufficient to release the parking brakes. If this occurs, allow the engine to run and build pressure within the air brake system prior to releasing the parking brakes. The parking brake override control, seen here, is a two-position control lever used to override the parking brake interlock safety system in emergency situations where the safety interlock system is malfunctioning or disabled. When the lever is in the off position, the parking brakes will not release until all safety interlock valves are properly deactivated. When the lever is in the on position, the safety interlock system is bypassed and the parking brakes may be released to allow emergency movement of the truck. The power divider lock switch is a two-position rocker switch used to operate the mechanism that locks together the two differentials of a tandem axle vehicle. The out position releases the lock and allows differential action between the two rear axles. Under normal highway conditions or good traction, the power divider switch should be in the out position to prevent interaxle differential wear due to unequally worn or mismatched tires. The in position locks the two differentials together. This position is to be used under poor traction conditions only. Caution: to prevent shock or damage to power divider components, switch to the in position only when stopped or moving at a very low speed. Do not operate the power divider in the in position continuously on dry pavement. This will result in excessive tire wear and premature axle wear. Never try to switch to the in position with the wheel spinning. This may result in shock damage to the driveline. So when encountering conditions of poor traction, move the power divider lock to the in position while the truck is moving at a low, even speed, and momentarily let off the accelerator. This will engage the differential lock. A warning light on the switch indicates when the interaxle differential is locked. When the traction conditions improve, move the power divider switch to the out position while the truck is moving at an even low speed. Momentarily lift up on the accelerator. This will unlock the interaxle differential. To the lower left of the steering column, you will see three switches. This is the mirror heat switch used to operate the outside rear view mirror heaters. The panel light switch used to control the brightness of the panel lights. And this is the main light switch. The top position turns on headlights and the tail lights, clearance lights, and panel lights. The middle position turns on tail lights, clearance lights, and panel lights. The bottom position is the off position. Here is the ignition start switch. It is a 4-position key-operated switch. The key straight up is in the off position. Rotate the key 1 to 10 counterclockwise to the accessory position. This allows for the operation of the radio or other electrical accessories. Rotate the key 1 to 10 clockwise to the on position. This sends electrical power to the truck's electrical circuits. Rotate the key further clockwise against the spring to activate the starter motor to crank the engine. Once the engine starts, release the key to the on position. On the steering column, you will notice several switches and controls. On the left of the steering column is a multifunctional control lever. This lever operates the turn signals and the high-low beam headlight switches. On the end of the control lever is a knob that operates the windshield wipers for various wiper speeds and activates the windshield washers. The red 2-position rocker switch seen here is the hazard warning switch to operate the truck's hazard flashers. This is the cruise control power switch, used to turn the cruise control system on or off. Here is the cruise control operation switch. When the switch is activated, this switch sets and controls the engine speed. When the desired speed is reached, depress and release the set cruise side of the switch. the vehicle will hold at that speed. To adjust the set speed slower, depress and hold the set cruise side until the vehicle slows to the desired speed. To adjust the set speed faster, depress and hold the resume accel side of the switch until the desired speed is reached. Lightly tapping on or applying the brakes will deactivate the cruise control. To reactivate the cruise control, depress the resume accel side of the switch. The truck will accelerate to the previously set speed. To the left of the cruise control power switch is the air horn button. Simply press the button to sound the horn. To the right of the driver are the transmission controls and indicators. First, you see the range selector lever that is used to shift the transmission to the desired gear and/or direction. Gear positions include reverse, neutral, and drive, and first through fourth gears. Warning: to help avoid injury or property damage caused by sudden movement of the vehicle, do not make shifts from neutral to drive or reverse when the throttle pedal is depressed. If you shift while the throttle pedal is depressed too far, the transmission will only engage if the throttle pedal is released in the next 3 seconds. This may cause a sudden movement to the vehicle. Leaving the throttle pedal depressed longer than 3 seconds causes the transmission to remain in neutral. Avoid this condition by making shifts from neutral to drive or to reverse only when the throttle is closed. Note: if the engine is running above idle when a gear is selected with the selector lever, the vehicle will not launch. To move the vehicle, the engine must be idle when a gear is selected. On the left side of the range selector lever grip is the hold override button. This button prevents accidentally selecting reverse, neutral, or drive. By depressing and holding the override button, you can move the lever to one of these 3 locked positions. Once drive is selected, any of the lower forward range positions may be selected without pressing and holding the override button. You can automatically tell which gear position is selected by looking at the LED digital display. Above the digital display, you'll see the mode indicator, mode button, and mode identification. The transmission always starts out in the performance mode, but when the mode button is pressed and released, it switches from performance mode to economy mode. Pressed and released again, it switches back to performance mode. In economy mode, the engine starts at a lower RPM while maintaining adequate performance. The LED mode identification, below the mode button, indicates when the transmission is in the economy or performance mode. The mode indicator, above the mode button, illuminates when the transmission has been switched to economy mode. When the LED is not illuminated, the transmission is in performance mode. The display mode diagnostic button, seen here, allows access to optional fluid level check information and diagnostic code information. Press the button once to obtain transmission fluid level information. Press a second time to obtain diagnostic code information. Inside the cab is the Syntec Fuelmaster 2525 automated data collection system. This is a fuel management system which facilitates automated fuel accountability in aviation fueling operations. In addition to ticket printing after each refueling operation, transaction data is compiled following radio frequency data transmission to a central accounting office. For detailed information, please see the Commercial User Manual, which is supplied as a supplement to the technical orders. This cluster is for the PTO and air suspension controls and indicators. The pump shift control engages the split shaft PTO pump. To engage the PTO, pull up the lock collar and move the lever to the pump position. The pump engaged indicator light, seen here, illuminates when the PTO is engaged after setting the shift lever to pump. To disengage the PTO, pull up the lock collar and move the lever to the road position. The pump power shift indicator light seen here is a green light that illuminates when the pump shifting sequence has been completed. There are two more switches in this cluster: the air suspension control lever and the suspension air dump. These two levers control the air pressure and ride height of the vehicle for normal road travel or when the R-11 must be transported by plane. The air suspension control lever is a two-position air valve. Normal position permits control of the rear suspension air pressure and ride height to the leveling valve attached to the rear suspension. This valve maintains the rear suspension at the proper ride height for road travel. The high position bypasses the leveling valve and adds air pressure to the rear suspension air spring chambers to raise the rear of the truck for extra clearance to allow the truck to clear aircraft loading ramps. Caution: do not drive the refueler continuously with the suspension in the high position. The suspension air dump is a two-position valve used to release air from the rear suspension for air transportation of the tank truck. After the truck has been loaded and positioned within an aircraft, move the toggle lever to the up position to release the rear suspension air pressure and allow the truck to settle to its lowest level. Caution: do not drive the refueler continuously with no air in rear suspension. Damage to the suspension components may result. These are the controls and indicators for the winterization unit. Notice the row of 6 circuit breakers to protect the corresponding circuits: input, output, battery warmer, battery charger, crankcase oil heater, and the engine block coolant heater. The 110 VAC connected indicator light is a blue light and illuminates when the 110 VAC power cord is connected to the winterization system electrical receptacle below the driver's side cab door. The battery charge digital readout seen here indicates the current battery voltage, charge time, or total charge supplied, depending on the position of the battery charger selector switch. The battery charger selector switch is used to choose the valve to be displayed. The small right side digit of the digital display will show a letter to represent amps, volts, hours, amp hours, and kilowatt hours. Above the digital display, you will see 3 battery condition indicator lights that are used to show the supply of charge remaining in the batteries. Left light means full, center light means half charged, and the right light indicates that very little charge is left. Before we learn the basic procedures to drive the refueler, let's take a quick look at a few other items in the cab. The dome light is located on the overhead console. Simply push on the plastic dome to turn on and off. There are several controls that operate the various seat positions. For the comfort of the driver, these switches are positioned around the lower left side of the seat and the front right side of the seat. They control such seat positions as height adjustment, seat tilt, forward position, and lumbar support. Familiarize yourself with the seat levers and controls before you operate the vehicle. Cab door controls include a vent window latch, window crank handle, door latch handle, and the door lock button. To drive the vehicle, first remove and stow the wheel chocks. Enter the cab and adjust the rear view mirrors, the driver's seat, and fasten the seat belt. Put the transmission into the neutral position. Start the engine and allow the air system to build to normal operating pressure. Check all of the gauges and indicators for normal readings. Depress the brake pedal and release the parking brake by pushing in the parking brake control. Shift the transmission range selector to the desired gear. Release the brake pedal and gradually depress the accelerator pedal to increase the engine speed. All operators should refer to the technical manual for more detailed information on driving the R-11 tank truck in various weather and road conditions. This detailed information can be found in Work Package 5 of the manual. However, Here are a few important points to consider when starting the engine. Caution: do not crank the engine continuously for more than 30 seconds. Starter motor damage may result. If the engine does not start after 30 seconds of cranking, release the key and allow the starter motor to cool for at least 2 minutes before continuing to crank the engine. Note: if the engine fails to start after 3 attempts, stop cranking the engine and investigate the problem. Observe the engine oil pressure gauge. Oil pressure should read between 30 and 75 psi. Caution: if the engine oil pressure gauge reads less than 10 psi, stop the engine to prevent damage caused by lack of lubrication. Observe the coolant temperature. It should read between 170 and 220 degrees. Caution: continuous operation with low coolant temperature or high coolant temperature could damage the engine. Air pressure must be at least 90 psi before driving the vehicle. Warning: do not attempt to drive the truck while the low air pressure buzzer is sounding. The parking brake will not release until the air pressure system exceeds 90 psi. Allow the engine to warm up to approximately 160 degrees before driving the vehicle. It is not only essential that all operators become thoroughly familiar with the location and proper use of the controls, instruments, and safety equipment, but it is also essential that all operators become familiar with the particular handling characteristics of the R-11, such as the accelerator control, downshifting, engine braking, and hazardous road conditions. Position of the accelerator pedal influences the timing at which automatic shifting occurs. When the accelerator pedal is fully depressed, upshifts will occur automatically at high engine speeds. A partial depressed position of the pedal will cause upshifts to occur at lower engine speeds. If a downshift is selected when the engine or throttle position is too high, the electronic control unit, ECU, will prevent the shift from occurring until the engine slows to a lower speed. To use the engine as a braking force, select the next lower gear. If the vehicle is exceeding the maximum speed for the gear selected, use the service brakes to slow the refueler. Engine braking provides speed control when descending grades. If the grade is too steep, pre-select a lower gear prior to descending the grade. If the engine speed is exceeded while descending the grade, the transmission will automatically upshift to prevent engine damage. When operating the vehicle in hazardous road conditions, reduce the vehicle's speed and select a lower gear before the vehicle loses traction. Select a gear that will not exceed the vehicle's speed you expect to maintain. Accelerate or decelerate very gradually to prevent losing traction. Slow down gradually when a lower gear is selected. It is important to reach the lower gear before attempting to accelerate, or an unexpected downshift could occur during acceleration. This concludes the overview of the R-11 cab controls, indicators, and basic mobile operation. For more information, refer to Work Package 5 in the technical manual. This video is intended to familiarize the operator with the various aspects of the cab for the Type AS32 R-11 fuel servicing tank truck. The information offered includes a general description of the cab, the use and function of the cab's exterior and interior controls and indicators, and basic instructions for mobile operation of the truck during various driving conditions. This video supports the diagrams, tables, and information found in Work Package 5 of the technical manual that accompanies this vehicle. A fully loaded R-11 with all specified equipment and crew is capable of maintaining a speed of 55 miles per hour on a dry, level paved roadway or maintaining a speed of 40 miles per hour on an unimproved road. It can also maintain a speed of 15 miles per hour on Belgium block pavement. The cab assembly is a standard enclosed compartment conventional cab. Seating is provided to accommodate 2 crew members. The cab instrument panel and console provide the controls necessary to monitor and control the performance of the R-11. Here is an overview of the R-11's exterior cab controls and indicators and their function. Located on the center of the front of the R-11 are 2 tow hooks. These are the attachment points for tow chains when the vehicle needs to be towed. Near the right front tow hook is the front auxiliary air connector. This is a quick disconnect air coupling used to supply the truck air system with pressure from an outside source when it is not desirable to start the truck engine, or the truck engine air compressor is inoperative. Also, this connection should be released to release the brakes for safe towing operations. On the street side, just below the driver's footstep, are the air tank drain valve lanyards. Pulling each of these lanyards opens the drain valves on the air tanks to release any water buildup from condensation. There are 2 engine cover latches on the R-11, street side and curbside. Each are over-center type latch and locks used to secure the engine cover in the closed position. Just under the street side cab door to the upper left is the winterization system electrical socket. This is the electrical connection point to supply 120 VAC power to the winterization system. On both the street side and curb side of the cab doors are the key-operated door locks and the door latch handles. Under the street side cab door to the upper right is the jump starter receptacle. This is the connection for an external 12 VDC power source to provide additional engine cranking power. Now let's review the description